That's a story for another time. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Cannata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens. Buddy, space is pretty dark.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the darkest. I mean, other than all those stars, you know, there's a lot of stars up in there.
Listen, not only are there a lot of stars up there, Jeff, all the stars are up there. Every single star is in space. Can you believe it?
I mean, except for the stars that I care about most, the stars that are just like us, you know? The stars that shed their light on Earth for us all to see in Us Weekly.
You never see Proxima B running out with a Starbucks,
No.
you know, in some Ugg boots with an infinity scarf? Because Proxima B is not like us.
No, not like us.
Proxima B is a gas giant. I'm making this up. I don't know about Proxima B. But this is an award-winning science podcast, by the way.
Yes.
Jeff, this is a metaphor that we hear all the time as fans of sci-fi, as fans of things. The blackness of outer space, the vast dark reaches of space.
The absence of light, the absence of everything except for, I guess, dark matter. But it's got dark right in the name.
It's got, even the matter's got dark right in there, my guy. This is a story that was sent into the Discord by ESO. By the way, ESO, determined to get a story in this week.
Utterly killing it.
Just went into the Discord, into the Cool Science Stories channel, and said, I only got time for one thing this week, and that's to be in the show. I'm dropping 10 interesting stories in. I got nothing to say about any of them. I'm out.
Yeah, ESO's got my story, too. It's all ESO week. It's
ESO week.
And you know what? ESO, you deserve it.
You know what? He min-maxed it. He found a loophole in our system.
Yeah.
We have a cool science news channel on the Discord. Discord's great, by the way, if you want access to the Discord, patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. But he was just like, I don't need to talk about these cool science stories. I just need to drop in 15 of them.
Boom.
And then, boom.
They'll sort it out.
They'll sort it out.
You know, every time I see ESO, though, I think it's Elder Scrolls Online. That's
you and 6 other people in the entire world. 6 people who like to hold down their left mouse button on a crab agree with you.
Nothing better.
So we talk about the inky blackness of space, but here's the question, Jeff. Is space actually dark, or do we just believe that it's dark?
Well, it seems to me that it's actually dark, but I feel like you're going to tell me that I'm wrong on this one.
I'm not qualified to tell you that you're wrong, but what I can tell you is that Todd Lauer...
Never stopped you before.
Well, yes, but in this particular instance, I can't say it. About a lot of other things in life, I feel comfortable correcting you, but this is not one of them.
Well, that's good.
Todd Lauer, who is an astronomer with the National Science Foundation's National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory. Jeff, you know that.
Nostrial for short, right? Or whatever.
Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Are you ready? It shortens to Noir Lab.
No way. That's badass.
Yeah, you like that.
That is bad. If they're studying the darkness of space and they're called the Noir Lab.
Right?
Hell yeah.
I like when people reverse engineer their acronyms.
Yes.
I love it.
Noir Lab. Dude, you got to have a business card that says you work in the Noir Lab. Come on.
Come on.
You know you're the hit at parties when you're like, Ben? He works in the Noir Lab. You should talk to him. He works in the Noir Lab. And then, of course, Ben walks over and he's got a trench coat and a fedora pulled low over his eyes with a cigarette hanging off his bottom lip.
He's like, I work at the Noir Lab, but sometimes I feel like the Noir Lab is working me over. You know what I'm saying?
It was a dark night when I came to this party directly from the Noir Lab. I walked in and I saw a few people having drinks. They beckoned me over, so I came. What came next was a surprise to all.
Oh, something you should know about Ben is he's going to narrate everything that happens.
I feel like if you work in the Noir Lab, you got to, right? Come on, that's the coolest.
So they basically are trying to answer the question, if you could look in the night sky and there were no stars, there were no galaxies, everything that we know gives off visible light. If we could remove it, if we could look at just an empty patch of space, would the universe itself put out a glow? Is there light that simply emanates from the universe? Is it part of the fabric of space itself?
This seems like an easy answer, no, to me, but we wouldn't be talking about it if it was no, right?
Well, it's something that astronomers have apparently been trying to answer for decades, because there are naturally occurring substances that are, phosphorescent. There are living creatures that are bioluminescent. There are
Sure.
Everything gives off a certain, every kind of matter gives off a certain amount of radiation and a certain type of radiation, right? So perhaps the very fabric of space itself has a slight glow. I don't know. That's cool.
How do we find out?
How do we find out? Well,
We got to go visit the Noir Lab.
so the Noir Lab, if you were to go visit, they will tell you that they have figured it out using a spacecraft that is traveling far beyond Pluto. It's the New Horizons. It was originally designed to explore Pluto, but it kind of just passed by Pluto in 2015. So it's coming up to Pluto, and we're like, oh, cool, information on Pluto. And then it just keeps going, and we're like, well, now what do we do with it? It's still there.
we can repurpose this bad boy.
Yeah,
it's still useful.
Let's look through some of the weirder projects that we couldn't actually fund and see if any of them could use this thing. Here's a guy who's trying to figure out whether space is dark. Give him the New Horizons space mission. Right? So
That's awesome.
They've been using it since 2015 to conduct their research, and they've just posted their work online in the Astrophysical Journal. Mazel tov to them. So basically, the New Horizons is 4 billion miles from home. It's 50 times farther away from the sun than Earth is right now.
Wow.
And that's important because basically it means that it has gone beyond all of the major sources of light contamination that are in our solar system, right? So around Earth and our solar system, we've got like a lot of space dust particles that get lit up by the sun, and it kind of gives the diffuse glow that we see in pictures of space or in the sky, because there are all these particles that are reflecting all this light coming from stars and coming from the sun. Out where New Horizons is, there isn't any of that dust, and the sunlight is way weaker, right? Because they're 50 times farther away than we are from the sun.
Yeah.
So what they did was they took a bunch of images that New Horizons sent back, and they're like, okay. So what we did is we looked for the most boring pictures that New Horizons sent back. Right? New Horizons.
Nothing, yeah. What pictures did it take of absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah. New Horizons is out there, and it's got a telescope, and it's got a camera, and its one purpose that it's been built for is to take pictures of the unknown universe. And it's just like, okay, I'm sending back, here's some cool stuff. Okay, that didn't have much. That's cool. I'll send them another one. And they're just like, yeah. Great work, New Horizons. Here it is. Here's the empty fucking picture of nothing we've been looking for.
That's the coolest thing ever, by the way. This is why I love shit like this, is because that's useful, right? The picture that you wouldn't even develop on the roll, like oops,
Yeah.
we took a picture of nothing. That's the one where scientists are like, well, this can tell us some shit.
This is it.
We can analyze the picture of not anything.
It's like walking through an art museum, and you go through like the Dutch Masters room to get to like the modern art room, and you're looking at all these beautiful like ornate scenes painted by Vermeer, and then you go and there's like a Rothko, and it's just a line on a white canvas, and everybody stops at the Rothko and they're like, this is fucking awesome. This fucking rules right here. This is the real shit. Forget that other shit. This is what it's about. And so what they did was they took the emptiest photos they could find, right? So, I mean, there's always going to be something. It's space. There's always going to be a couple stars or a far off galaxy somewhere. I mean, that's the universe, baby.
Right.
If anything that exists is going to be out there in the universe. That's the point. So what they did is they found any images that had a place that doesn't have bright stars or even like not just bright stars in the images, but bright stars that like right outside the image that could add a little bit of edge light. They looked for like the dimmest, emptiest photos they could find. And then what they did is they used post-processing on these images to then remove all known sources of visible light, to sort of like look at like where a star is in the photo and go like, okay, based on where that star is, its proximity to New Horizons, we're going to remove the star and we can estimate that this much light comes from that star. So we'll remove that much light from the photo.
Wow.
Like a lot of modeling and imaging, right?
Yeah.
So they basically pull back light from the stars, scattered light from the Milky Way, stray light from camera quirks. And what they're left with is fucking other light.
What?
Jeff, there's more light. So then they're like, okay, let's be cool. Let's just be cool and be scientists about this, right? We can't high five and say we did it just yet.
Right.
Where's that other light coming from? So then they subtracted out all visible light that they could attribute to all the galaxies thought to be out there and how far away they are, right? Like maybe there's a galaxy many light years away that's influencing just a little bit of light in this photo. Pull it out. And still, there's some fucking light in these photos, my guy.
Light that's registered in the photo that doesn't seem to have a source is what they're saying. They're saying that there doesn't seem to be a source for this light, but it's still light.
Correct. So, and you have come to the conclusion that a lot of other astronomers have come to as well. So Mark Postman, who's an astronomer with the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, is like, okay, well, the light coming from mysterious sources is maybe about equal to all the light coming in from known galaxies, or maybe there are unrecognized galaxies out there, or there's another source of light that we don't yet know what it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the universe itself is giving off light.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's this guy, one of the reasons I picked this story is because of Michael Zemkov.
Yeah, well, you got to pick Zemkov stories.
Zemkov, listen, if a Zemkov story comes across my desk, they know. My assistant knows to put a little red tab on it.
Yeah.
So I know immediately if anything Zemkov comes through. Zemkov is an astrophysicist at RIT, the Rochester Institute of Technology. He's not part of the research team involved in this. He has simply read and looked at the research. And what I love is Zemkov's attitude about this whole thing is awesome. Zemkov's like, look, they're saying there's as much light outside of galaxies as there is inside of galaxies, which is a pretty tough pill to swallow, frankly. That's an exact quote.
Wait. I'm not even sure I'm tracking this. So he's saying that there's as much light outside of galaxies as inside of galaxies.
So that's sort of what the team has found, is that there's a lot of light that's coming from, I don't know, just the universe itself, man. just the fucking
there's just some light that we don't know what it is. We don't know why it's there. It's radiation. It's some sort of like fundamental fabric of the universe that's giving off something that we would perceive as being light.
They don't know. They're just saying, hey man, that's next steps. Here's what's going on right now. We removed all the light and there's still light. Light minus light equals light. Figure that one out. And Zemkov's over here like, okay, so for 400 years, we've been studying visible light and the sky in a very serious way, and yet somehow apparently we missed half the light in the universe.
Wow.
He's like, nah, it's very difficult to turn around and say to the astronomical community like, hey guys, we're missing half the stuff out there. But then he says at the end, but I think the work is really solid.
The work is solid, but he doesn't buy it.
He fucking negs them and negs them and negs them, and then is like, but I mean, I'll buy you a drink.
So he doesn't find a flaw in their methodology, but he feels like there must be something we're missing because it just doesn't add up that we would not know. I mean, yeah, you get to the furthest deepest reaches of space that we've ever sent something to and try to analyze the pictures from there. certainly feels like a lot of stuff can go wrong that we didn't anticipate because it's
Sure.
pretty far and we didn't know about stuff. And also it feels like, I mean, yes, there's a lot more light contamination in the near galaxy and in places we go to a lot.
Of course there is, sure.
But it feels like we'd still realize, like he's saying, we'd still realize that there is this extra illumination. Don't you think it feels like we would in measurements and all of the measurements that we do inside our own solar system, it feels like we'd be like, that's weird. The sun is letting off this amount of light. It's reflecting off but we're getting extra. Don't you? It boggles my mind too much to be able to even wrap my head around what this could mean.
It could mean any number of things, right? So a couple of things that Zemkov says, he's like, look, maybe there are far more small, faint dwarf galaxies and other faint regions on the outskirts of galaxies that the Hubble telescope can't detect, and so we're not aware of them yet. You know, maybe there's more out there interfering with our measurements than we expected. You know, there could be any amount of errors or any amount of unknowns that are causing this. But it could be that some unknown phenomenon out in the universe itself creates visible light. It could be possible that something that's associated with dark matter could create visible light somehow. You know, we know that it exerts a gravitational pull on visible matter, but we've never seen it directly. So who knows how it's affecting other things that are out in space? What we know is when you remove all known sources of light that we're aware of, there's still more light out there. So to me, this says one of two things, which is number one, hey, they're right, man, and the universe gives off a slight amount of light and we're just not sure how yet. Or there's a bunch of stuff that we just don't know about out there. And either way, I am into it.
Could it be the Force?
You know, the Force is luminous. We are luminous beings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
like
not just
bluish light.
It's not just crude matter. Well, it depends, Jeff. It depends. Ghosts definitely reflect more blue light on the spectrum. We know that. That's science. Ghosts is blue.
Are they getting any signs that it might look a little bit like Sir Alec Guinness?
It could. Because
that would be a clue, you know?
Yeah, and it could look like the problem is there's some inconsistencies with our readings, and sometimes it looks like David Prowse, and then sometimes it looks like Sebastian Shaw, and like we just can't tell until we can figure out that variable. We're unsure. Are
they getting any Muppet? Are they getting any Muppet at all?
Yeah, it could be Muppet, could be CG. I think it depends. So as a person who studies the universe, this is Michael Postman again from the Rochester, or not from Rochester. This is Michael Postman from the Space Telescope Institute. He says, as a person who studies the universe, I really want to know what the universe is made of and what all the components of the universe are. We would like to think that the components that give off light are something that we can really get a good sense of and understand, and why there is that much light. But to do that, it's really essential to understand first how much light there is that needs to be accounted for. And that's why this study helps. So even if, you know, the universe does not wind up being mildly luminous in some way, this could be beneficial to us in sort of the way we're like, we could calculate the noise floor of the universe when it comes to light. We could calculate what the amount of ambient light is on average anywhere in the universe, and then be like, okay, we know the ambient light here should be about this much. If it isn't, then perhaps there's something else here to explore that we can't see. It's kind of neat. It
is. It's really neat. And I got to say that the first image that I had in my head when you were describing the New Horizons probe out there past Pluto in infinite darkness is a kind of, I mean, I don't mean to anthropomorphize it too much or, you know, turn it into a story. It's just an object floating through space. But in my mind, the image I had was this really kind of sad little device in pitch darkness. Just absolute pitch darkness, just floating through space past our solar system, completely in the dark. Like you would be, walking down the hallway in your house with all the lights off, totally dark. And then, obviously there's stars and planets in the distance, but if the actual truth of that is that there is sort of this faint glow and you can sort of see the probe moving through space at all times, it's a very different concept of what that would be like out there so far away from our sun.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? How we, not just these probes, but things like the Mars rovers and stuff like that. We're always like, hey buddy, are you lonely? Are you lonely out there? And even when they were doing like the Mars rover, like Twitter accounts and things like that, they anthropomorphized it to be like, I'm a little lonely, but I'm finding all this neat stuff. And it's just like, aw, buddy.
Well, yeah, it seems like the deepest reaches, the most remote place, we just send this thing off and years and years go by and it's still just beautifully going in one direction. Until
it comes back as a god worshipped by Kirstie Alley.
Maybe that's what the glow is. Maybe it is, maybe it has become Galactus.
It has become V'ger.
Yes. It has assumed its final form, and that form is light.
I do want to say that Todd Lauer did say at the end of this article, he said, it is a new measurement with the capability that we have because we're in a unique place with the camera that can exploit that neat place. But still, space is dark. It's still pretty dark. What
don't get me wrong, bro. It's still the Noir Lab that I'm running here. It's not all of a sudden called the Sparkle Lab. It's not the Glimmery Glow Lab.
Todd Lauer's not like using nail polish remover on that black polish on his nails yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't swapped out the trench coat and the fedora for a sequin cape. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely not.
We're still in the Noir Lab, everybody. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is the Noir Lab.
Still dark, still dreary. I'm still growing out my hair.
I'm still the night. I'm still tortured. Don't you worry. It's the Noir Lab.
The deepest reaches of space are not a happy, bright, sunshiny place. You know what I'm saying? It's not. You're inviting me to the party. I'm still going to narrate it.
I'm still going to narrate it in a dark way. You're still going to have to apologize to your friends for me. Yeah, that's just Ben. That's just the way he is.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You know who?
Why did you invite him? Why did you even invite him? I don't understand why you every time you invite him.
He's kind of cool and interesting.
Well,
there's something cool about the edginess.
There's like 2 hours of the party where I think maybe this time he is not showing up because he's always very late.
Well, sometimes he's early, but he's standing in a dim corner. Sometimes he's been there the whole time, and that, I think, those are the weirdest times.
That is the most disconcerting part. That is the...
And then you turn around again, and he's gone. He left you a file folder about the Joker.
By the time you noticed I was there, I was already gone. No, you're still here. That's why you're talking to me right now.
I can hear you walking away. He couldn't hear me walking away. Yes, I can. I thought to myself, what a schmuck. What a dumb schmuck, this guy. Hey, come on, man. Oh, boy. Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell people real quick to head to our Patreon, okay?
I think that's a good idea. They should. They should head to our Patreon. Hey, what a time of year. It's the holiday season, a time of gratitude and giving and reflection on the year that was. And oh my goodness, this was the year that we brought the show back because of the goodwill of our patrons. We only are able to make the show because of them.
Yeah, it's true. We don't do ads. We don't do integrations. We don't do any of that weird stuff. All we do is ask you all if you enjoy the show and you'd like to see us continue the show, that you just give us a little to help us keep it going. And we do give you some stuff in return. You get things like early episodes, bonus audio, bonus video, hangouts, all kinds of wonderful stuff. If you want to know more, and I just want to say at the base level of this thing, for $1 a month or more, you get access to our Discord, which is a great place to hang out, share science stories, but also just share everything about what you're doing. It is a wonderful little community over there. And if you'd like to be a part of that or help support the show and get some more extras, just head to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
Do it. Do it. Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Jeff.
You know I love the Isaac Asimov.
You do. I was gonna send you a thing today, actually. Like, Clickhole did a really great. Clickhole is like, it's beautiful. I don't know if you're familiar with Clickhole, but it's a wonderful parody site.
Clickhole is kind of like The Onion, but a little different, right?
Yeah, basically? But it's The Onion, but instead of newspapers, they're basically making fun of social media and BuzzFeed. And they had a thing. They had a fake quiz. How many of these Isaac Asimov books do you remember? And I know this is not. I may cut this whole thing out. I don't know, but I thought you would get a kick out of this. I want to read some of these to you.
Are they all fake?
Yeah, Jeff, no, this is a serious quiz.
He did write like 400 books, so you never know.
He wrote 500 plus. He wrote 500 novels plus countless short stories over the course of his career. Here are some of his titles. How many of them have you read? Number 1, Clear My Schedule. A robot is here.
That was a good one.
Number 2,
I didn't read that one.
From space came the zapping. There's a good. The robot who winked at me.
Yeah, you never want that to happen.
The moon that came to dinner dressed as father.
It seems like an algorithm came up with these titles.
The spaceship that flew from Indianapolis to Cleveland. A strong whiff of robot.
I do love the Isaac Asimov. He was sort of the first author that I really fell in love with. I mean, it was before my Stephen King phase. It was before my, before I really diversified. My dad, it was before Tolkien for me, even. I got into Asimov before even Tolkien.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It was like I read those Foundation novels, and man, they had such a huge impact on me. I must have been like 11 or 12 when I read them, and it just blew my mind. And then I got into the Robot series. And of course, Isaac Asimov, as we've established, prolific science fiction writer, perhaps best known for his 3 laws for robots, the robotic laws. If you recall, these he did a number of robot stories that turned into iRobot is one of them. Very, very much not related to the film version. But
I was going to say, I believe Will Smith came up with the 3 laws of robotics, Jeff.
Maybe it's possible. I wouldn't put anything past Will Smith. But if you recall, the 3 laws of robotics are.
Can I see if I remember them?
Oh yeah. Do it.
Okay, I know that the first law is definitely a robot cannot actively injure a human being or allow a human being to become injured through their own inaction. Like they always,
That's correct.
It's like the Hippocratic Oath for robots. They can't let any harm come to humans.
Yep, and can't. Yes, exactly. Perfectly said. That's number 1.
And then number 2 is kind of a Fight Club situation where the second law is all about the first law, and that is that a robot has to listen to everything a human says unless that interferes with the first law and would cause them to hurt a human.
Exactly. That's what's so elegant about these Asimov laws is that they all take the other laws into account, and they're actually in priority order. So yes. So the second law is a robot must obey orders given by humans unless an order would violate the first law.
Okay.
Remember the third law?
The third one is. Oh, the third law is no self-destructive, dangerous robot behavior. Robots can't do anything wild and crazy that would hurt them or deactivate them. They have to be safe. They have to be safe.
Exactly. Robot. Yes, exactly right. Third one is a robot must protect its own existence as long as doing so would not put into conflict any of the other laws. So again, third law is basically a hierarchy. It says protect humans at all costs, obey humans at all costs, except for when it hurts humans, and then protect yourself unless it would hurt a human or violate them a direct order that they told you. Mm-hmm. So I think these are very elegant 3 laws, a structure that was great for science fiction, but actually as we've gotten closer and closer to having robots as a reality in our world, people are really adopting and thinking as viable option for something that would actually be programmed into AI in the present or future. But this article that ESO posted that I find so interesting is an interview with an author who has, or an AI thinker and philosopher who just wrote a new book. And the thesis of the book is there should be some more laws. That yes, these 3 laws of robotics are useful and appropriate and well written, but he proposes 4 additional laws.
Okay.
To create 7 in total. And
so, okay, well, this is interesting to me because I always assumed that like, so these should be fundamental laws to all robots, is what you're saying.
This is his thesis, yes.
Okay, because I was thinking like, well, I mean, I think the whole thing about the 3 laws of robotics was these are the fundamental laws, and then you can add more laws to other robots and machines as they go. But This person is saying, this AI expert is saying, nah, those 3 are not enough. You'd think they'd be enough, but they ain't.
That's correct. Yes. And I got to admit, well, we'll see what you think of them. As I've read more and thought about these 4 additional laws, I kind of don't think they're very good. But I think they're fascinating because basically what they are is a response to the intervening 80 years that we've had between when Asimov wrote this stuff and now when we actually have AI and we actually have some automation, taking jobs from people and a lot of worry about that and how that's all happening in our society.
We have AIs creating horses and cats. They're creating images of horses and cats on the internet out of machine learning, and they're weird. They're weird images, and AI should not be able to create a cat that gives me nightmares.
Yeah, the 4th law is no nightmare cats.
No weirdy horsies, please.
No, so here are the 4 laws. By the way, I should mention this is from a book written by Frank Pasquale. It is called New Laws of Robotics Defending Human Expertise in the Age of AI. So now, that's the book that this is plucked from.
Now, to give the TLDL version of this, Jeff, after reading this article and hearing these laws, are you going to read this book?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
But it's not going to stop me from picking apart these laws and getting your thoughts on them because I think they bring up interesting points, and I think the discussion that arises from it could be really fascinating. I was reading on Goodreads, my go-to source for book stuff. I was reading some reviews of the book, and boy, they are not great.
Wow.
But,
okay.
No offense to Mr. Pasquale. I have not read the book, but I do think this is a fascinating addendum to Asimov. Now, my first criticism, I think, with these laws is that Asimov created a very elegant structure and very clear and concise, unambiguous, right?
Yes.
And I think in the goal of any law, not just a legal law, but a law of the universe or a structural foundation, that's really what these are, is a structural foundation for the building blocks of robotic artificial intelligence. You want clarity, you want simplicity, you want unambiguity.
No ambiguity in law, because ambiguity in law is how people take advantage of the law.
Right.
And that's how your laws get broken.
I think you'll find Mr. Pasquale did not achieve that metric or that bar.
Okay.
But I'll let you give your feedback. So here's the first additional law that Frank Pasquale suggests is digital. First of all, my biggest criticism is that you'll notice in Asimov's laws, all of them are a robot must. A robot must not harm humans. Robots must obey orders. Finally, a robot must protect its own. So already we're in the place of should and ought in these laws, which is a little disconcerting to me. But here we go. First law, digital technologies ought to complement professionals, not replace them. So the idea here is
that could be a should. That's just wishy-washy writing voice.
It's a little wishy-washy writing voice, but the idea here is that we should create robotic intelligence not with the desire, not with the intent to create a full functioning Anthony Carboni, but with a tool that Anthony Carboni uses to improve his life.
Fundamentally disagree already.
You want a new Anthony Carboni?
Well, I don't just want a new Anthony Carboni. The idea that technology should never replace a human, right? It should only complement a human professionally, right? That's no, absolutely not. We should there should be, a robot should be able to completely replace a human in a lot of things. Like, why shouldn't they?
The idea is here that we should look at them as tools. Now, if you think of, let's look at Star Wars, for example. If you look at an R2-D2 or a C-3PO, these are very specific functioning droids that have specific, like a C-3PO even, who can talk in complete sentences and knows 50 million languages. He is not going to replace a human being. He can't do all the things a human being can do. He is an interpreter droid.
Sure.
He does one thing specifically.
Right. But there is no longer a need for a human interpreter. Do you see what I mean? And this is where this law there's where this law is already a little like, because when you talk about in a professional capacity, complementing a human as opposed to replacing a human, well, that means we shouldn't have robot armatures on car assembly lines, right?
Well,
that means
he's saying specifically in jobs that require judgment. For example, like he says, doctors, nurses, journalists, teachers, and so forth. He says that you can have robots that will assist, that will, for example, analyze data sets that a doctor could never do. As a human doctor would never be able to find pattern recognition in a data set to the extent that a robot could. But that data analysis and the AI that is doing that should never completely replace the human in that situation. You should not have a completely robotic doctor. You should have a robot doctor that analyzes you on a certain level and then filters it through a human. So the idea is don't replace all the human beings on the assembly line. You can reduce the number of human beings that you need on an assembly line. You can create a situation in which
but this is where I'm already like, well, where's that line? This is where it's already wishy-washy.
I think the idea is I keep using science fiction because that's my only, touchstone on this stuff, but it's not Terminator, Cyberdyne Systems, whatchamacallit, what's it called? What's the name of the network in Terminator?
Skynet.
Yeah. It's not Skynet that removes humans completely from the equation and replaces them 100%. It is integrated with human beings. And
but that's the issue. That's the issue, right? Is like the fundamental human assumption that if a computer takes over for a human being, it inevitably leads to Skynet. That's ridiculous. Like, well,
I'm using Skynet.
That's the dystopian
I'm using Skynet
version.
as an example of a system in science fiction that has removed.
But where do you personally sit on this rule, though? I know you're taking the academic argument. At the academic debate of this, but where do you sit on this rule? Because I think that's a ridiculous rule already.
I mean, it seems that the thrust of his argument is not so much rules for robots, but rules for the people who create robots.
Sure.
And in the sense that perhaps the goal shouldn't be to eliminate the need for human beings on the planet, but to supplement human achievement. I think it's a laudable goal. I think it's an understandable position to take, to say, I mean, his basic.
But this whole thing is a fundamentally capitalist argument, though. That's the problem. This is a fundamentally capitalist argument. This assumes that we are going to create robots and keep capitalism as we know it instituted the way it is, because this doesn't come from a fear of Skynet. This comes from the robots are taking our jobs. That's what this rule sounds like to me, is, oh no, the robots are taking our jobs. Motherfucker, on an infinite timeline, The robots should take our jobs, and nobody should need a job. That should be the end point of technology. The worry should not be, am I going to eliminate the truck driver right now? There should certainly be some thinking on the human end about when we eliminate truck drivers, what do those truck drivers do, and how do we take care of those truck drivers? But that's not something that falls to the technology. As far as I'm concerned, that only kneecaps technology in order to keep a capitalist system in place. That's where I'm coming from on this rule.
Yeah, I know. I think I sympathize with your position, and I'm inclined to agree with it. But I think in the short term, I mean, he's saying that the road to getting to your utopia of infinite free time and a
fully automated luxury space communism.
I mean, you're talking about the end of WALL-E, right? All the people in their tubes watching media all the time.
Yeah, but without that, like that's the other thing is that's the dystopia.
What else is there to do?
What else is there to do when the robots do everything that we don't want to do? Anything you've ever wanted to do.
But the problem is that the things I want to do, the robots will also do.
Like what?
Like create things, like make stuff that's interesting.
You can still make stuff that's interesting. You just don't have
but
to.
The robots
you don't
will be
also,
able to do it.
You just don't also have to paint your house every 5 years. Like
right, but
you also don't have to.
I also don't have to make music or write. Have podcasts or
no. But like, listen. You don't have to. There are things that you don't have to do right now because of robots and computers, but you still can. That's the thing. It's not about. Oh, the robots can do everything, so why do anything? If the robots do everything for you and you don't want to do anything, it means you never took the time to think about what you want to do and what your ambitions and passions are. That's probably because you were stuck doing a bunch of repetitive work your whole life. So like now that you've got the time, create that thing. Just because a robot's creating it doesn't mean you can't also create it, and you don't have to worry about making a living with it.
I think you're right, but I also worry that you're not right.
Sure.
I worry that human beings aren't equipped to not have a purpose.
But that's also not our job, Jeff. It's also not my job to tell you that if you don't have to go to if you don't have to go work a 50, 60-hour work week to pay for your house, it's not my job to tell you that what you do now that you don't have to pay for a house is paint something or write an opera. If what you want to do when you don't have to go to a 60-hour work week is sit around all day playing video games, good. We created a society where you can do that. Like, that's the thing. It's not my job to put a value judgment on what you want to do with your life. It's my job to make sure you don't have to do anything you don't want to do with your life.
So in your vision of this future utopia, there is a robotic workforce that creates food and shelter and all the necessities of life and ensures a just and efficient society. And inside that society, human beings are basically little seedlings, they're basically little, like an ant farm for the robots, right? We can just muddle around doing whatever we want. We can just sit or not sit.
How are you the pessimistic one in this story? This
I'm not
is
being
so
pessimistic.
weird to me.
I'm genuinely asking a question. Like,
what turns us? You are seeing work as purpose. That's what's so fascinating to me. Like, so now that we have created these things, you immediately see it as we've created a cage. You see it as we've created a thing that we're trapped in that the robots watch and go, oh, how fascinating. They're like our little pets. But that's not what it is.
Not a cage in so much as like a nest or a cradle, some sort of infinite comfortability, which I guess is, I'm working through this thought in real time. I'm trying to figure out how I feel about it, because the idea of this infinite comfortability is on its face a positive, right? You go, yeah, of course it's a good thing to have all your needs taken care of and be able to rest. And maybe we just like meditate all the time and we achieve a higher state of consciousness as a species because we don't have to worry about toiling to take care of ourselves. Maybe it is a positive. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to work through what your vision of that is.
Well, if you think about it in like a sort of an Asimov way, and not like a Philip K. Dick way, it's a bit like, okay, so like in a Philip K. Dick story, we create the robots. The robots start doing everything the way we want them to. It turns out the way we wanted them to do everything was wrong, and we wind up oppressing ourselves and wiping ourselves out because of robots. Because the automation of all of this takes away the spark of humanity. But if you think about it in like in an Asimov way, the more you remove people who want to achieve things and achieve great things have a number of things in their way. They have obstacles in their way. They have the obstacles of day-to-day life, right? And so the main argument is, so we create these workforces, we automate everything, everything is taken care of, we remove the economy, right? And then what do we work on next? I would argue that becomes like, then we start getting into solving big problems, right? There are so many things that are distracting us right now. There will always be things that kind of we need humans for, I think. But it's going to be because we can only create robots that can do things that we can think of, right?
Well, until we create robots that can come up with other robots.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully we come up with robots and they're like, oh, well, you wanted to solve this problem, and I found out that if I solve these other problems, it solves that problem and 10 other ones. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're hoping for.
I mean, this is the place we've gotten to with like chess and Go playing robots, where they are doing strategies that no human has ever come up with before.
Yeah. But then the idea is that the humans could kick back and then be like, all right, well, what now? Is it immortality? Is it interstellar travel? What do we want to do? What do we want to do that's big? Maybe it is just we all just sit around and paint and meditate. Maybe we find out that like once all the obstacles are removed from us, our desire to go off into the stars is not as huge as it used to be. Or our desire to live forever isn't as huge as it used to be because so much of our life isn't spent doing things we don't want to do. So we're just like, well, I had a happy life and I can die at 100 because I did everything I wanted to do. Or I don't need to go
which is got all the achievements on all the games that all the robots wrote for me.
So many platinums. But yeah, so I mean, already I'm saying like we're only into rule 1, and I already have I already have a fundamental issue, and that issue is a robot should absolutely be able to replace a human.
Well, I think you're going to sense a trend here with how you feel, but let's move on. Rule 2 is similar. AI and robotic systems should not counterfeit humanity. So the idea here is the goal should not be to just create Cylons, right? It's not about making a a robot that's indistinguishable from a human being.
That I agree with.
Okay. All right. Well, look at that. One for two.
It's not necessarily David Cage style. They have to wear Holocaust armbands, but you know, there should be, AI should not be created in order to trick or fool people into thinking they are human.
Yeah. You have the robot that is the checkout robot at the grocery store doesn't have to look like a human being. It's just a kiosk.
Yeah.
Like that's the most easiest way to be.
Yeah. And you know, there can be robots that look like human beings, but they should identify themselves and be put in places where it's okay that they look like humans, and it's not supposed to take advantage of anybody.
By the way, I should have mentioned that his proposal for all this is that there is not one, but an entire series, a network of government agencies that are put in place, interconnected agencies that regulates all this stuff, that it works in the same way that we have an FDA we have all of these different agencies that are grouped together to handle different aspects of AI and make sure these rules are followed.
I like that. I like an interdisciplinary organization or an interdisciplinary board where everybody is kind of like, hey, just checking in from kind of like the human rights side, and here's what we think about this. Checking in from the psychological and emotional health side, and here's what this would do if you added it. That should definitely be a thing for sure.
He says, I'll quote him. He says, essentially, you have an array of agencies established over decades. Agencies like the Securities and Exchange Commission, Federal Communications Commission, and others over time that would be independent agencies that would allow the enforcement of these rules not by one single group.
Yeah.
So that you have these different agencies that are in charge
right now
of different
you got a bunch of
rules.
you got a bunch of Musks and Zuckerbergs doing all this shit, and they don't they're not really thinking about the human cost of these things.
Yeah.
So it's important to have people that think about it all. I agree with that rule as well.
Well, that's not a rule. That was just sort of his premise. But the third rule, the third law here that he proposes is AI should be prevented from intensifying zero-sum arms races, which I find to be the most inscrutable of the laws. This one is the murkiest to me, and even his sort of explanation of what he means by that leaves a lot of room for confusion, I think. But basically his idea is that the way AI has been used thus far, specifically with, algorithms, Facebook algorithms, YouTube algorithms, it's all about establishing an arms race of your attention or competition. He says that with robots specifically, there should never be a situation where they are established to create a race for attention, a race for really anything. That it shouldn't be about competing to create the most whatever of the robots.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, that's a little... Yes. I mean, because it's a little wobbly, right? It's a little wobbly, but because once again, this is something where you say to yourself, well, what's the line there? It's not as clear as do no harm, right?
Right.
But I understand there should not be two different bot farms pumping two different viewpoints of disinformation into the world. There should not be two rival computers designing larger and more destructive weapons. Like, understood. Yes.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's
hard to make that a law.
It's hard to make that a law. Because I don't know. There are ways to compete for good, right? Like,
I mean, that's capitalism.
If
theoretically,
you have, put it
the
this way.
idea behind it.
If you have two different systems working in two different ways to create a vaccine right now, is that an arms race? Probably not, because there's good intention to it. But
technically, I think that you could argue that it is. Yeah.
According to the letter of that law, can they do that? Are they allowed? You know what it makes me think of? The Variable Man. You know the Philip K. Dick story, The Variable Man, where
remind me what that one is.
So Earth is at war with the Centauran Armada, right? It's just a dumb Philip K. Dick name for the space empire. And the whole deal is, this is kind of like a Philip K. Dick thing along the lines of Minority Report. I think he wrote this before Minority Report, where the idea is like, we've got a computer. The Centaurans have a computer. We've been at war for 100 years, but nobody's fired a shot yet because we keep feeding new information into these computers, and we're waiting for the odds to be in our favor long enough for us to attack.
Cool.
Right? It's cool. And it essentially puts us into a stalemate where we're always at war. Which is an equally bad state to be in than, an out and out war. So I do think it's fascinating. I think it could lead to inaction, but once again, how do you enforce that, and what does it mean entirely?
Yeah. That's why you need multiple agencies, I suppose.
Yeah.
The fourth law that he proposes is, I think, the most interesting, and maybe the one you'll get behind the most. This one says robotic and AI systems need to be forced to indicate the identity of their creators, controllers, and owners.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
So there's no mystery robots running around. Every robot by law is forced to have accountability to a human being.
Yeah. If you're a Nexus 5, you have to say you're a Nexus 5.
Exactly. Exactly. And that one seems like it could actually be useful in controlling some of the, nefarious aspects. Like you have responsibility. Your dog bites somebody, it's your dog, and you can get taken to court for it. Your robot does something, it's your robot. Not only that, but your robot was created by a certain company, and that company is liable.
Yeah, I think, if you're doing construction in a neighborhood, you've got to post a lot of permits and things. If you're going to be allowed to do that work. And I think the same should be true of these AI. When we're talking about spitting out misinformation, it'd be a lot easier to be able to tell when bots were spitting out misinformation if they had to tell you who they were.
Yes.
If they weren't just Deborah 5156789.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The election is being stolen. By the way, I'm controlled by a Russian farmhouse.
I mean, that's the trick. And then we get into the slippery slope of privacy and things like that. And especially in America, the slippery slope of I don't know. America doesn't like laws like that. Identify yourself.
It certainly does not, but I do think that's a fascinating.
And then you get into the gun ownership, the thing that gun owners say, which is well, if you take guns away from all the legal gun owners, if you require all people who create AIs who are doing it legally for good reasons to identify themselves within the AI, the only AI that won't identify themselves are the ones that are breaking the law.
Yeah, but that's how you know.
But that's how you know. That's how you know, you idiots.
If you have to tell me if you're a cop, and you also have to tell me if you're a robot.
Yeah,
you have to tell me if you're a RoboCop.
If you're a RoboCop, in a Hawaiian shirt and a hat, trying to pretend not to be RoboCop, you got to tell me.
Yeah.
Also, it's very obvious. It's just a Hawaiian shirt and a hat. You're 7.5 feet tall, and your head's a metal visor.
And you keep saying, thank you for your cooperation. I don't understand. I'm not cooperating that much.
These presenting these as 4 additional laws.
Sells books is honestly what it is.
Sells books. What he's doing is he's introducing some of the larger ethical concerns that we have to think about and pretending to make them laws. Which they're not. And I mean, like you're saying, people, if he put it out through some, academic publisher and it was called, Reflections and Treatises on the Future of the Ethical Creation of Artificial Intelligence, people would be like, no. But if he calls it the 4 rules that will save robots from killing us, sure, that sells a book. And then you can go to HarperCollins.
Well, I mean, technically he called it New Laws of Robotics Defending Human Expertise in the Age of AI, which is pretty dry.
Same shit.
But
same shit. But he's also picking the fight with Asimov in his title, which I love.
Yeah.
Which I have a feeling his Goodreads would be a little better if he didn't come out swinging at Asimov.
Yeah. But there'd be fewer reviews.
To the fucking Goodreads community.
He's working the algorithm just like anybody else.
Yeah, this dude has he has studied how AI and misinformation works, and he's like, if I come out swinging at Asimov. I do, but this is something that we have to think way more about. And not just think way more about. This is something that we have to put more actionable legislation and procedures into over the next 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the real takeaway is that I do think there needs to be a structure, some sort of structure in place because it's the Wild West right now. And I think we're going to get very, very quickly, we're going to get to the place where, no structure gets us into problems.
Yeah.
if we're not already there.
All we've been able to get the government to say about data, internet, robotics, AI, any of that stuff so far is, corporations should be able to do most of what they want to do because they have a lot of money and they pay lobbyists to take care of that. And also, I don't know, video games shouldn't show boobs to kids. That's basically what the government knows. Everything above and beyond that, I remember when they brought in Zuckerberg for the first time to talk about misinformation, and you're looking at these representatives from our government, and you're listening to their questions, and you're like, oh my God, you have no idea what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's everybody's grandpa who got a cell phone a couple of years ago and is trying to figure it out, and then also pass laws in America for everyone's cell phone usage.
Yeah. And so it's, the first step is getting some more knowledgeable people into the fucking government about this.
Yes.
Or at least getting the government to acknowledge that they themselves are not as knowledgeable as they want to be, and making sure they have proper consultants and advisors for this sort of thing.
Yeah. Just the line of questioning alone to Zuckerberg was shameful.
Ooh.
I mean, it's like they don't even know the right questions to ask, let alone answers they want to hear.
I mean, Franken asked one good question and then 18 follow-ups that were awful.
Yeah.
But he had the one good question in the whole thing. If we don't start thinking about this, the worst possible version of this will come to pass, right? And
yeah,
because right now we are the people who want to use this sort of like AI machine learning technology are doing it specifically, and a lot of times to spread their point of view and to make themselves money. And those are the two worst motivations to put AI into practice. So it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. So, I mean, I'm glad there's more thinking about this stuff every day, you know?
But I think I am down for your Wall-E-esque life of luxury, you know, the human utopia where we're all just nurtured and cared for, and all of our needs are taken care of so we can just live in the land of want. Yeah,
I think, you know, at the very least, we should get it to the point where all of the things that are the most painful for us to do are eliminated, right? The goal as a member of society is to reduce society's pain and suffering, and to increase society's enjoyment and productivity. And we should definitely be thinking towards those lines.
We'll figure out a way to screw it up, man. We'll figure out a way to screw it up.
You know,
there'll still be haves and have-nots, even in a world of no reason to have not. There'll still be haves and haves not. I feel like we'll still screw it up in some profound way.
I mean, it's sure, but hopefully our screw ups at that point, we will have set a net in place where the screw ups are less destructive and less harmful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I sure hope so.
Anyway, what do y'all?
I sure hope so.
What do y'all think about this? You should let us know. Come on into the Discord and chat about it with us if you want to.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some interesting feedback about these laws and about the idea of living in a post-work world. That would be an interesting society to live in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to get into that Discord, the best way to do it is, and the only way to do it, if I'm honest, it's the best and only way to do it, is to head to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. Support us for $1 or more a month, and you can be in that community. You can also talk about this on the subreddit. That's wehaveconcerns.reddit.com. You could tweet your opinions to us on Twitter. I'm at acarboni.
I'm at Jeff Cannata.
But boy, am I ever trying to stay away from Twitter and conversations on Twitter. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at.
And not a bad course of action, for sure.
But yeah, automated luxury space communism is the way to go, Jeff.
Or Noir Lab for short.
That's